Now, what if I were to say, hypothetically speaking, that Donald John Trump is a parasite to the betterment of mankind. Therefore, it is in our collective best interest as a species to euthanize Donald Trump. Don't go scurrying towards the eject button thinking that this track will get you in trouble. I never said that I would be the one doing it. In a free country, I am entitled to state my opinion. After all, that is freedom of speech. That statement is freedom of speech. I have the free speech to describe in gory details the great lengths I wish to observe Donald Trump's corpse. Whether or not I will pull through with it is irrelevant. In fact, it would be very unwise for me to announce any plans I may or may not have to legitimately assassinate the man. My speech should go completely and utterly unquestioned, not in the context itself, of course, but the fact that I am saying it at all should be left uncensored and unabridged. Isn't that what the First Amendment of the Constitution says?
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
This, of course, falls under the category of grievances, but I'm still not a constitutionalist. The Constitution is violated by our government every day, and not just in the First Amendment either, but especially in the Second, the Fourth, and the Fifth Amendment. Freedom of speech should be respected regardless of the permission of government or governments. With this in mind, it's important to note that while this is an extreme opinion of mine, this has not stopped the free speech bus from existing. For those who aren't in the know, the free speech bus was a bus designed to tour across America and spread transphobic rhetoric to big urban cities. The bus was seriously attacked, seriously vandalized, and it eventually seriously canceled the tour. And as awesome as that sounds, this isn't a victory for the transgender community. Think about it. Why would anyone set up a speaking tour where they spent their time preaching xenophobic hate speech across America, knowing that there would be at least some kind of resistance, albeit peaceful or violent, and then Christian the bus as free speech bus? If it really advocated for free speech, it would represent both sides of the topic the people on the bus were talking about. Of course, Christian xenophobes aren't going to want you to listen to their opposition, because it is within their common practice to shut down their opposition. And with these people, this has been true with creationism, the existence of God, the existence of miracles, the worldwide flood that lasted 2 months and 17 days, not to mention that Noah was somehow 600 years old, according to the book of verses in the Holy Bible, and even the supposed end of the world that had been postponed to a new date every time we learned that Pat Robertson is a lying sack of shit. So, of course, Christians are not going to want to teach you the history of the San Francisco Stonewall riot, which was started by a black trans woman in the 1960s who threw the first brick, widely known as one of the largest riots in queer and trans history. They don't want you to know that Navajo tribes have recognized and celebrated the two spirits where cisgender and transgender peoples coexisted peacefully even before European colonization. And they don't want you to know that gender variances was an essential part of Hijra culture in India that dates as far back as 400 BCE. And when British colonized the land, they were ostracized by the Criminal Tribes Act in 1871 because the colonists thought these people were going to cast curses against them. It wasn't until 1952, of course, when it was lifted, but the damage was still done and the stigma lives on in India. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that transphobia is a far newer concept than transgender folks themselves. Plus, transphobia is anti-science because gender, sexuality, and expression is on a spectrum, and scientists are beginning to understand this. If the free speech bus were to truly advocate free speech, it would loudly and proudly welcome a platform for their opposition. Yet, no such thing has ever occurred, and that's because they never truly did advocate for free speech. Free speech was sticker slapped on the bus to victimize the people when they were met with reprimand and nothing more. And as the gaslighting would proceed, if someone opposed the free speech bus, they would also oppose free speech itself, despite the context of what the speech is. In other words, their agenda was specifically xenophobic and only xenophobic. In fact, their agenda entails censorship and the spread of disinformation to pollute the distribution of information on trans folks with misinformation itself, and to manipulate the public by using baseless and recycled arguments such as fake news, or from its German origins, Lügenpresse. But even on these terms, this isn't enough. Why is it that people like Milo Yabba-Dabba-Doo, an alt-right conservative who has gone on live streams confessing his pedophilic experiences fucking young boys, why does he get more airtime on primetime television and invited to universities to speak than even his opposition? You can't use composure as an excuse, because if I can convince you that wiping black people, Jews, and the disabled out of the gene pool is a genuine ideology, then you have been gaslit and you're possibly, potentially, gullible. It has nothing to do with my tone of voice. By that logic, the only thing that I have accomplished was that I have convinced you, for a second, that toying with the idea of genocide is more rational than the resistance to genocide. It shouldn't require sitting you down to explain why genocide is morally unethical. While some people can be reached on this subject, others can't. Hypothetically, Donald Trump could legalize child rape tomorrow, and there would still be a large cult following defending his every will unconditionally. These people are not to be negotiated with. They have chosen the side of the oppressor, and they are vividly aware of it. You can't rationalize with someone who has voted for Trump and has not regretted it yet. They've heard Donald Trump's notorious pussy-grabbing comment. They're aware of the sexual assault charges of the Miss Teen USA contestants. They know Trump sold over $100 billion of nuclear weapons to Saudi Arabia, despite Trump trying to ban Muslims from entering the country from Saudi Arabia. They know Mike Pence endorses electroshock therapy to gay teenagers. They know Trump goes golfing more than Obama has on average and uses our taxes for it. They know Trump approved of the Keystone XL and Dakota Access Pipeline, despite both of them being built illegally on land that is not theirs. They know Trump has cut health care from even their own family members. They know Melania Trump sleeps in Trump Tower and lives off our taxes for it too. They know Trump bombed Syria, even though he promised he wouldn't, which was a key reason why most Republicans voted for him instead of Hillary. They know that at one point, Trump's chief advisor was a white nationalist known as Steve Bannon. When Steve Bannon's ex-wife was interviewed in 2007 about signing their daughter up for school, she said,
"He went on to say the biggest problem he had with Archer is the number of Jews that attended. He said that he doesn't like Jews, and that he doesn't like the way they raised their kids to be whiny brats, and that he didn't want the girls to go to school with Jews.
With all of these extremist narcissistic behavioral flaws, these people genuinely understand that Donald Trump and the people he associates himself with is a morally bankrupt pile of shit, and still have his back 150% with undying loyalty. The alt-right troll community has even referred to him as God Trump or Emperor Trump, and has even compared him to dictators like Augusto Pinochet. Whether or not they're being ironic is unimportant. Donald Trump has made a name for himself as an antagonistic force to the well-being of mankind itself, and they proudly and loudly support it. You can no longer chalk it up to ignorance, or at least in the grand scheme of things, because even the mainstream media has done what it could to report the nasty things Donald Trump has done and said. These voters are consenting adults who are legally eligible to vote. You can't coddle them like children. But then I ask, if these people can legally express their desire to kill entire marginalized groups of people en masse with no legal consequence from the authority, why can't I express my desire to see Donald Trump's dead body covered in piss? Ted Nugent even went on to say,
Woo-hoo! Obama is a piece of shit. I told him to suck on my machine gun. Hey, Hillary, you might want to ride on these into the sunset, you worthless bitch.
And of course he was candidly joking, uttering the words freedom of speech afterwards. So why should we wipe Donald Trump's ass because of his delicate feelings despite him having warranted the backlash he's received? Why should Kathy Griffin risk losing her career because of her freedom of speech when she held a mock-up of Trump's bloodied, decapitated head? For what it's worth, I did not plan on actually killing him. Take it from me, I never said I was going to kill him. After Trump was elected, he had hired over $1 million worth of security to protect him. I cannot and most likely will not kill Donald Trump. But I would be lying if I had said that more than half of the world want to make waste of the life of Donald Trump. And ultimately, that desire should be no more taboo than Ted Nugent's desire of the death of Obama and Clinton. That type of global anger is scaring the living shit out of Trump and his ego. And I would love to see Obama and Clinton assassinated as well. Obama and Clinton were, in my opinion, some of the most politically corrupt Democrats the country has ever seen in a long time, having done more favors to oil companies, bankers, and arms manufacturers than they did for the people they promised to help. Why do you think Occupy Wall Street brewed during the Obama administration? Trump is no exception in this case. Obama and Clinton are what I call diet imperialists, mixed with the aspartame diet colas usually maintain. But Trump, on the other hand, is imperialism on steroids. A good surge of energy and feel-good power, but you come down hard and weak, almost to the point of being unable to compose yourself down the road. But it is because of politicians like these is why we need to normalize and legitimize the want to destroy them in the first place. That is how revolution works. That is how shit gets done. You can't vote away political corruptness, plutocracy, and greed. You can't vote away systemic violence and institutional racism. You can't vote away gerrymandering and the very system that imposes these qualifications on its people. That is simply irrational and idealistic because politicians will not stop these things just because you signed a fucking petition stating that you dislike it. There is too much power in politics, and it will not seize itself until you, yourself, seize it.